Good Wednesday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Penovich. We need to talk about Elsa. A little bit of a shift overnight, maybe in the track to the west of the remnants, could bring heavier rain to the Charlotte area, but it's still kind of on that fine line. Now, we're not looking at a wind or tornado threat for our area, but there is the threat for some heavier rain, possibly a little farther west, which I'll explain kind of in the setup today. But let's take a look at the system, which has been pretty fascinating. Last night, we had the storm ramp up to a hurricane briefly and then just utterly collapse. I mean, something I haven't seen in a tropical system in a while over warm water. But you can see it's about to make landfall this morning in that Big Bend area of northern Florida, right in here. Cedar Key is just pretty close to there. So the center is roughly right in the middle of the screen. Let me see if I can turn on the center. So it's right about there. Notice it's still a very lopsided system, and that's still very key to the time of impacts you see, because all the weather is over in here. The whole west side is just almost non-existent. So that's why even a track to the west a little bit is still probably not going to have a huge impact. It just depends on where the heavy rain band sets up as we go into the next 24 hours. And that's really what I should tell you, is that today we are going to see a pretty nice day today, but tonight that moisture starts moving in. So you see all that moisture pluming in from the Atlantic. So we're likely going to see at least the potential of some heavy rain developing late tonight into early Thursday. But it's going to be flying. This system is going to pick up speed and move off to the northeast. So it's only pretty much the first half of Thursday that we have the potential for some rough weather. After that, this thing is out of here fairly quickly. So let's get to some of the forecast guidance as it moves up to the north. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So let's put on the track first. That's the track so far. Here's the cone, and we'll put the official forecast track. So this is a subtle shift to the west again of the remnants, probably more through the sandhills. I'm actually going to turn off the satellite data here just for a second so it's a little easier to see. So you can see this is basically where it's going to be early tomorrow morning, and then by the afternoon, it's all the way up here in Virginia. So it is long gone. So tomorrow morning, it's over eastern North Carolina, and by the afternoon, it's up into Virginia. Now, it's a little closer to Charlotte, but again, remember, all the worst weather is going to be on the east side. So heavy rain along I-95 towards the east, small tornado risk, and still some tropical storm issues along the coast. I think we've already got tropical storm advisories in effect for a big chunk of the coast. Here we go. We've got the orange is a tropical storm watch, tropical storm warning for South Carolina. So essentially, we've got a tropical storm warning for the South Carolina coast, and then in North Carolina, it's a tropical storm watch. And honestly, I think the worst weather is going to be out in here towards the Pamlico and Albemarle Sound. That's where we'll likely have winds close to tropical storm force, but still not looking at a lot of surge. 1 to 2 feet right now is kind of the general theme. This is really about a rain maker, and because of that, I will show you the severe weather risk today. This is day 1 risk for severe weather. You see the medium threat as it moves up the coast. Here's the day 2 risk for severe weather. So that's kind of where we expect to see isolated tornadoes over the next 24 hours or so. So let's go to the forecast. All right, so here's the short-term forecast. We'll go just the next 18 hours to kind of show this thing moving up to the north and east. So you can see this is the afternoon. So not a whole lot in the Carolinas. I think there could be an isolated storm, but really daylight hours should be fine. It's once we get into tonight after sunset, we start to see maybe a band of broken showers way up here. And again, remember, there's an old stalled front up here, so any moisture is likely going to kick off in the heating of the day. Some pretty good isolated storms. But you can see the storm is still generally to our south. I'm going to stop this around midnight to 1 a.m. So notice the center is probably somewhere in here, but we got to watch this shield on the north side. We obviously know there's going to be a big band here, but this northern shield is the one that we really need to watch as it moves to the north. So I'm going to switch to the longer range forecast here real quickly, and I'll pause it, and we'll kind of do the same thing we just did. We'll stop it there. And you can see as it moves up to the north, we've got a lot of scattered storms on the west side, but the heaviest stuff is staying just to the east. So let's go into the early morning hours, 7 a.m. So there's our center, probably between Columbia and Florence somewhere. Obviously, heavy rain on the beaches, but you can see the scattered variety back to the west. As it moves to the north, this is where it gets interesting because you can see how sharp this contrast. So I-85 is right here. This is where we've got a heavy rain band. And again, in here, you're probably going to have some flash flooding. Now, out in here, you could have tornadoes as well. And the winds on shore are going to be pretty strong, especially with this band. This band, and it's not the center of the storm, but this is likely where you'll have the strongest storm surge because that's where the winds will be strongest tomorrow morning. So high tides in the morning, in particular on the North Carolina coast, something to watch. But you can see that heavy rain band just barely getting into the Charlotte area. That's even with the westward track. And then by the afternoon, it's moving out. Starts heading up into Virginia. So folks in Virginia from Richmond to Norfolk, this is when your weather goes downhill late Thursday. And even on the backside, there'll be scattered storms, but the worst of it is really past us. And then it moves up towards the Delmarva Peninsula. And then it's out of here. So let's take a real quick look at some of the intensity guidance. Not showing much of an intensity here. This thing's going to level off, probably weaken over the next 24 hours. Wind speed wise, max winds about 20 miles per hour near the coast, probably a little closer. Let me actually put North Carolina here so you can see. So you kind of see the swath of wind there. Maybe some 40, 50 mile an hour gusts, but I think that's about it. Back to the west, it drops off quickly. Rainfall wise, just for the Charlotte area, we're around an inch and a half, but notice the sharp gradient here. I mean, you go from about 2 inches to 3 inches to 1 inch to like a half an inch. And any little shift to the west could bring that further west, but it also could go to the east if it shifts off in that direction. Let me quickly show you North Carolina with this setup as well. There's the North Carolina setup. Let me move the map a little bit. So you kind of see that swath of heavy rain pretty much right along I-95. So that's where we're going to see the heaviest rain. And because of the dry conditions, this all happens in about a 6-hour period. We're probably going to be able to handle that. Can't rule out some flash flooding, but that's going to be a good soaker for some of us. And for some folks to the west, you're probably going to be going, what tropical system? Now, a quick look at some of the guidance for the water heights. Still the highest water we're expecting on the Georgia, South Carolina coast. As you move north, not expecting as much water. Again, like I said, I think 1 to 2 feet above normal tides is probably the worst case scenario in all this. But we'll keep an eye on it. This really, to me, is more of a rain and tornado risk for the Carolinas. And rain being number 1, tornadoes being number 2. And just looking at the way that some of these echoes are showing up on the reflectivity future, I would be worried about tornadic cells within this line. So to me, yeah, flooding's a big deal, but boy, there could be some isolated strong tornadoes in this band that forms because there will be some sun breaking out around this because it is such a dry system on the west side. That means sunshine comes out in between some of these bands and they can actually get a little bit stronger than they normally are. But there's the timing for you. Tomorrow morning, and then it's gone. So the first half of Thursday looks pretty wet, and then we're out of here. Again, that's the winds. And again, rainfall amounts, real quickly, I'll do the whole state. It's a little easier to show. 2 to 3, maybe isolated 4-inch amounts near the coast. 1.5, maybe 2 inches closer to Charlotte east, and then back to a half an inch back to the west. Of course, I will post updates tomorrow morning if anything changes. This to me is just going to be a big rainmaker for most of us. But again, watch that tornado risk. Good idea to be weather aware. Have your phone charged up because tornado warnings could be the most immediate threat that a lot of us see during the morning hours tomorrow, even late tonight, a possibility of that.